my mind. I am not Chris Randona. I'm Ben Raza, and I'm here filling in on the Friday NFL Strategy Show. Special treat for me. I'm with the man himself, Manny Laura. What's up, dude? Long time.
Yeah, it's been a while. Well, not really, but on these airwaves, sure. But on
My
radio, we
mind.
had you because of your big win, man. So it's kind of been a long time working together, I guess, on a show. But yeah, talk to you on radio, dude. First off, congrats. That was a big time win, man. We were all rooting for you, so that was fantastic. And then thank you for having me on, of course. Fantastic week of football as always, man. We have been I think it's the last week to qualify for multiple live finals. There are massive tournaments, obviously millionaires everywhere. Yahoo has gargantuous tournaments. There's so many things going on this weekend specifically that, man, yeah, I'm ready to tackle it all, man. Pretty exciting.
Absolutely. And yeah, I'm glad you said that because Yahoo is sponsoring our show, which you want to give a shout out to. They're running some monster contests. $200,000 baller contest with a top prize of 20K. They've got CSV uploads, so you can use those lineups, lock them in, build the 150. And if you want, you can claim up to $30 in Yahoo Sports reward points by signing up and using the promo code AWESEMO. Those YSRP points is good as money. Use the link that's featured, and you will get those. So we're going to drop that in chat. Definitely go check that out. As Manny said, they're running some big contests, and there's just big contests everywhere. Qualifiers, things of that nature. We have 13 games because buys are over. We got no T-Day slate. So we're going to jump into it if you're ready to roll. We're going to go position by position, talk about that. We'll talk some stacks. Manny could drop the knowledge from FC and the ownership and what we're doing. You want to start at QB? What do you think?
Yeah, sure. I mean, okay, so QB, I feel like every single week, there's just like one division where I can never stop playing them. It's kind of annoying. And I think this finally might be the week where I don't have like three of the NFC South in there. So I usually just go I just throw in Matt Ryan, I throw in Brees, I throw in Jameis, and I just call it a week, right? But I don't have Jameis, thankfully, this week. I don't know if that's wrong. I'll start with Deshaun Watson, man. Came off a good game. I get it. It's Denver, but he's at home. I think people will see that total and not really like where it stands, but the game or the team total for Houston, I think is healthy. I love that I can always pair him with DeAndre Hopkins. I have a few pairings with him, right? So I think he's always a surefire bet. And anytime I see him where he's not QBs never get chalk, of course.
Mm-hmm.
But anytime I can get someone like this, when I feel the field won't be totally, all over Deshaun Watson, I think I feel good about it. So Deshaun Watson, probably my top guy.
Yeah, I'm with you. At home, coming off the big win against the Patriots, he was super efficient in that game. Only threw the ball 25 times, but still got there. Now he caught a touchdown. That's not going to be happening. But at the same time, this is a much better matchup. We'll have to see. The Broncos a little banged up. See what's up with Von Miller. But either way, I like him, and you're getting a discount. I know Lamar and Co are just unbelievable, but man, this is going to open up some salary as we get to some of these other positions. And like you said, NFC South, we get a rematch of Kyle Allen, who threw 4 picks last time in Atlanta, and Matt Ryan. The game's in the Dome. What do you make of them? I know you did mention Deshaun, but are you on that game specifically?
It's kind of weird because I'm kind of giving credit to this Atlanta defense when I'm not sure I should be. They were so bad for so long. They had a little stretch now where they were respectable, and all of a sudden it's like, well, now I don't have Kyle Allen. Now I don't have I don't have Matt Ryan. I'm trying to stay this. I mean, they've been bad for so long that it's just like, until when am I going to stop losing money with Matt Ryan? That's honestly what I feel like. I mean, like Julio, I feel like Julio is almost non-existent for forever, and it's just like, okay, well, now who do I go to? Do I have to play like Matt Ryan to like Russell Gage or Calvin Ridley? Like these guys are just like, I don't like these guys. I mean, I'm not surprised if people go here, right? I'm not surprised if that they're the team people want to, or the game people want to play, right? It does have a pretty healthy total. I think probably the highest or second highest, which I know is appealing, but I don't know, like the actual plays in the game are just like, meh. I'm not interested in any of this, to be honest. Like I'm not like Ridley's okay, Matt Ryan's okay, all these guys are okay, but I'm just meh. I don't know. I'm just not really there. Maybe that's wrong on my part. I don't know. You tell me.
So it's tough because it's a spot I do like the game. I think as we get late in the season, being inside is a bigger bump each and every week. Uh, God, so it's tough. Kyle Allen in the last spot. I mentioned this. He threw 4 picks, but he drove them up and down the field. He just couldn't connect in the red zone. Now he is very cheap. If you're looking to pay up elsewhere, you can get exposure to him. He's got, of course, McCaffrey and DJ Moore. He's got the weapons. And then you just talked about it. Matt Ryan's weapons are a mess. Their best weapon is the guy who can kick the onside kick every time. That guy's But other than that, Julio's banged up. Ridley's banged up. You've got Gage. We'll see if Hooper comes back. So it's a game I want some exposure to, but exactly how I correlate these stacks kind of remains to be seen. But I guess I have to ask you, what have you been, we were talking a little before the show about our years. What have you been doing with Lamar, and are you going to go to him in a tough spot against Buffalo? Because I really haven't been playing him much, and it's kind of burned me here and there.
Yeah. So Lamar's interesting because, and I've tried to study this in many different ways, and it's obviously I think naked might be the best way to play Lamar, right? But then in tournaments you miss out on so much when you don't stack that it's just like the correlation's so strong sometimes, and it's just like you can have naked Lamar and he could give you 30. I feel like he's a guaranteed 30 every time. Imagine this: he had 100 yards rushing and 100 yards passing, 100 something yards passing. He had 1 touchdown rushing, 1 touchdown passing, and it was, for all intents and purposes, it was like a low tier Lamar game last week, and he still almost had 30 fantasy points. You know what I mean? Like, he's rarely more than that. And Marquise Brown or Hollywood Brown is just it's like 3 or 4 catches, but if they go for 70 each, there's his 100. You know what I mean? And it doesn't happen all too often, to the point where just like I hate pairing him with someone because they rarely do much. And when I don't pair him with someone, then I'm just missing out on stacks, period. And I feel like it's just stacks are so important sometimes in NFL that I hate not having them. And I'm kind of torn. I played him last week a ton, and I tried pairing him, and he did well, but then like Hollywood Brown didn't do anything. Mark Andrews, like, barely. It's so frustrating. You're totally right. I love him, but I don't know what to do every single week. I don't know what to do.
So that I'm in the same boat. So it's a couple things there. Stacking is so important, and as you've talked about a ton, yes, a lot of people realize it, but there's still a real percentage that don't. And when you play Lamar on his own, and I get that, that means you have to get an extra spot right on its own. It's just one more permutation, and that's very difficult to do. Now, pairing him up, it's incredibly frustrating when you nail Lamar and then you have a dud from Mark Andrews or Hollywood Brown, because those are the only two. I know people have had success stacking with Ingram. That is not the strategy.
Yeah, correct. I agree.
Don't do that. So it's very difficult, and this is not an easy matchup. The Bills at home have been pretty stingy, but there's just no other guy. I mean, he rushes 60 plus rushing yards in every game since week 4. He gives you the bonus on the ground basically like half the time. I don't know what to really do with it, and it really is a problem because he can just do things that no other quarterback can do.
Yeah, no, it's one of those things to where it's so funny because when I don't play him, it's like I see him do all this shenanigans and another touchdown, another rushing touchdown, another passing touchdoam. I'm like, wait, who did they pair this guy with? Yeah. And why am I frustrated? Because like I feel like unless the whole tournament has him naked, then I'm not. What am I losing out to? They almost always have a dud alongside Lamar Jackson if they paired him with someone. So yeah, it's annoying, man. And then, of course, in before this week, Hollywood Brown has like 120 yards and 2 touchdowns.
On 1 catch somehow. It's not even possible, but there you go. So besides, like I said, we mentioned a couple of the NFC South guys. You mentioned Watson. I totally agree. Is there anybody else, whether it's Darnold and Fitz game, you got Tannehill versus Carr, Rodgers is a massive favorite at home. Is there anything else that really sticks out to you at QB?
Yeah, this week is kind of weird. I don't know if you agree, but like all these quarterbacks just have like really tough matchups, right? Like Drew Brees, San Francisco. Like I think that's incredibly tough. Jameis, we talked about Indy. Probably not the toughest matchup, but probably not the best spot either, right? Matt Ryan, we talked about that Carolina game. It's just his weapons kind of suck. Aaron Rodgers has Washington, but I think it's one of those to where if because like everyone has a good matchup there, right? So it's like, can he be the one to get all the work? Like, I don't know, man. For me, Rivers against Jacksonville, like there's not something that really stands out to the point. Kyler Murray against Pittsburgh. There's so many tough matchups that it's just like, man, I think I have to pick quarterbacks in tough spots. You mentioned Lamar Jackson against Buffalo. I think I have to pick quarterbacks in tough spots. So I'm looking at ownership and I'm saying guys like Drew Brees against San Fran. I know that's a really tough matchup, but guys like Michael Thomas and Alvin Kamara, I think are just like always so sure of what they're going to do that it's just like, do I take a risk, right? Drew Brees is also 5'9" on DraftKings. I know guys, sites like Yahoo, sites like FanDuel, sites like Fantasy Draft all brought his price down because of the matchup, and it's just like, why? Like, he's still Drew Brees. I think I get it. The matchup's really tough, but is the price worth it for him? So I don't know. I'm looking at Drew Brees. I'm looking at guys like Tom Brady, Sam Darnold, but it's not guys I feel really, really good about.
Yeah, it's an interesting slate in the sense you mentioned. You've got some big blowouts where it's like, yeah, Rodgers is going to get his, but is he going to have enough to give you a ceiling
Right.
if we're talking large field tournaments? Then you've got guys like Breeze at home in the dome, but probably the worst matchup you can really draw. I tend to more lean towards someone like Breeze just because of the weapons around him. And, I think just the way they design that offense, he can get going. We'll move on in a sec, but I do want to ask you specifically about Ryan Tannehill. Chad has mentioned him a couple of times.
Oh man.
Is this like the volume has not been there? He gets sacked a ton. He's been running a bit. He's against the Raiders out in Oakland. Do you have any interest there, or would you rather go get someone like Breeze?
Here's my thing. Like, who do you pair with Ryan Tannehill? That's my thing, because I mean, I totally forgot that Corey Davis was even on this team. Like, I haven't heard his name, let alone seen him in so many weeks. Incredible. So it's one of those things. Like, if you're not pairing with people tried Jonnu Smith for the longest time, like AJ Brown, and I'm just like, man, I watch Red Zone, so I watch every single touchdown. I'm sure of it. I haven't seen these guys score in so many weeks. Are they still in the league? It's just like, I get it. I have Tannehill projected for a healthy amount this week, and it's kind of scary. But I just don't know what to, like. Again, I want to stack. I don't know who to pair him with. I love his projection, but I don't know who is he going to pass to. I feel like it could be like a random Ferkser or something touchdown. You know what I mean? Like, it's just like, it's one of those. I don't know who's going to catch it.
These teams are very difficult because there's a lot of like Adam Humphries just like randomly chips in.
Are you kidding me? Like,
you can't pair him with Henry. You just can't do it.
No, of course not. Yeah.
Henry is absolutely a mammoth tank. So we'll see. I may get to some too, but as you mentioned, it is so difficult to get something like that right twice. Because if he has a good game, it doesn't mean you know where it's going. Where some of these other teams, the Saints are a perfect example. It is so concentrated. If Brees has a big game, where it's going. So that makes it a lot easier. You're only trying to get him right once.
Yep. And by the way, AJ Brown did have like some sort of calf injury or whatever. He was limited. I think he still goes, but apart from or besides the Week 12 game against Jacksonville where he went ham on 4 catches, he hasn't done much this season. And it's just like, I can't even trust him, even though I think he's a phenomenal talent. It's just like I can't even pair AJ Brown with. So like, can I peg the random person that's going to score? I cannot. I've tried, hasn't worked out in so many weeks. I'm kind of done with it. I like Tannehill, but I'm kind of done trying.
Fair enough. Yeah, I think as you mentioned at the top, quarterback is pretty straightforward. You can kind of just play who you play. You're only playing one of them, of course. The ownership is dispersed, especially on 13 games. You're not going to have massive chalk. Anything else before we move on to running back that you want to talk about?
We haven't played I haven't played Tom Brady, I think, all year. I think this might be the first week I played Tom Brady. I really like, I think if that game shoots out, I don't know if it will. Again, that New England defense, always been pretty good, but this is the highest total on the slate, right? And if it does live up to the hype, New England, I think does put up points, making Tom Brady, I think, a pretty decent option. Like, he threw for what it's worth. He hadn't thrown for 300 yards since I think like week 6 or something. Threw 300 last week and had 3 TDs. Looked pretty good. It was the primetime game, so we didn't have it on the slate, but looked pretty good. If we can get another repeat of that and he starts, cooking something here in the ending of the season, then I'm all for Tom Brady. Obviously, guys like James White and Edelman at the top of my list.
Yeah, we'll see what they can do. I'm going to talk about the Patriots in a second when we get to running back. And I guess if you're good, we'll just go right there.
Yeah.
I want to talk about Sony Michel.
Okay.
Last year in this game, 100+ yards, 2 TDs. I do think there is a window where the Patriots say, you know what, let's take the air out of the ball and lean on this rushing attack.
Yep.
The Chiefs are definitely weak on the ground, and I don't think they want to give Mahomes, Tyreek, and Kelsey a ton of work. Do you think that's a narrative that could play in here? I know he doesn't catch balls. James White, of course, does that. But Sony Michel, 5,600 on DraftKings, not going to be popular, in my opinion. I think it's a reasonable ask to maybe put him in there.
Yeah, the only thing with him is like he's been so bad all season that it's just like doesn't have a 100-yard game yet, and if he doesn't fall into the end zone because of the goal line, like doesn't do much either, right? He has 6 touchdowns on the season, rushing, and 3 of them came in one game against the Jets. So that's kind of how he gets his performances. It's just like, do you get the goal line carries? Yes. Did you get in? Great. There's your touchdown. But he won't. It feels like he can't rush for 100 yards. Now, if he gets somewhere closer to 20 carries, then you love it, right? I think for 5, 6, depending where you're playing, 5K ish, you're in a pretty good spot. The problem is, I don't even think he's had 10 fantasy points since like week 7. So it's one of those things where, can this be the week? Yeah, sure. If you think you're in the "what have you done for me lately" category and you're with James White on the other side, then I guess roll with James White. But one thing will happen for sure. I think one of these backs will have a pretty decent game. Hard to say is Michelle. At least for me, I think I side with James White. But yeah, you got to pick either or. I don't think you can play both.
No, yeah, I'm with you. And the Patriots are, we've all talked about this, the way they chameleon their team.
Yeah.
Dave's, Tom, they can do so many different things, and it's just matchup. We'll see with the weather. It is in New England in December, so keep an eye on that. But let's start. I mean, we have to start at the top. Christian McCaffrey is quite good at this sport. I mean, I guess I asked you about Lamar Jackson. I guess I can just ask you here. What have you really been doing with this guy? I mean, he seems to get there each and every week without finding the end zone. But at the same time, even when he gives you 30 DraftKings points and similar production on sites like Yahoo, you can kind of get away. So do you find yourself jamming him or getting kind of elsewhere and saving the salary?
Yeah, so ever since he, got up to, this ridiculous price tags, like I think he's the most expensive player on every single site every single week for, I don't know, probably the entire season. That's how it's been. But and it gets tougher and tougher as the pricing gets stricter and stricter on him and just keeps going higher and higher, because I was just plugging away. I was just like, oh, McCaffrey's just your plug and play every single week and you'll figure out the rest somehow. Value will open up. Don't worry. You'll play a mid-tier receiver to compensate and you have McCaffrey and there's your 30 to start off every single week. And now last week he didn't have a 30-point game, right? He had like half, and now the world's going crazy. Like, oh, what happened to McCaffrey? Like, okay, after like 10 weeks in a row of like 30-point games, he finally gave you like a 17. And I was like, oh, he's dust. The guy can't have one bad game. You know what I mean?
And he should have they got it all the way down on the 1-inch line, and they couldn't get him in the end zone.
Yeah. So I like him. The thing is, I agree with you. I don't think now, because of the price tag, you need even if he gets 30, like you don't need to have him to win. We saw that the last couple of weeks, and it's, for me, I'm starting to get away from it a little bit, little by little. He doesn't have the ownership he's had in past weeks where he's like 30% owned or anything. I think Osmo's projecting him now for about 16, 17. So if that's the case, then I think I like him a little bit more, but definitely not one that I need to jam in this week. At least I don't think so.
Yeah, and that's really, one of the many benefits of the tools that, I know you use, Mania, and some of the stuff we have on the site is you can get a gauge on how much you need to leverage. So if he comes in the teens, I might get over with 20, 25%, but that means I have 3/4 of my lineups if he crashes and burns that are still live. And that's a great luxury because, I know for me, in a couple of weeks ago, I did have some success and I didn't have McCaffrey in those lineups, and he had a good game. He had 33 DraftKings points, but it just speaks to, unless he breaks the slate with like 45,
right,
probably be there. And there's an opportunity cost when we look at guys like Nick Chubb, like Leonard Fournette, a lot of Q tags up there with Dalvin Cook, Henry. Connor's not going to play, Le'Veon. What do you make of the next tier of backs that we're really dealing with?
Yeah, I think that's the tier I want to go to. Like, even if you want to throw in Kamara in there, like I think Kamara's in another. Yeah, I think another. I mean, Kamara's in a fine spot. There's just so many up here that I'm just like, I think I'd rather save even the 1,000 or 2,000 or 3,000, depending if like it's Kamara or whatever. Like I'd rather save that coming down from McCaffrey and probably afford 2 of these guys instead of having to go McCaffrey and then like I don't know, any cheap running back like a Michelle or something, because I feel like. Sorry. I feel like if you go to McCaffrey, you have to save somewhere. and you have to cut down somewhere. And I would hate to do that at the other running back spot, but sometimes that's the way you have to go. So for me, I'd rather have two of the mid-tier guys. I think Chubb is fine. Obviously, Cincinnati, a fantastic matchup for him. If it's so funny, Derrick Henry has these huge games, and all of a sudden he's the third highest priced running back everywhere, right? Like it's usually McCaffrey, Cook, and I don't know, one of like Fournette, Chubb, or Camaro when he's doing well. Now it's Derrick Henry. The guy's been an animal. I think Camaro is probably my favorite because of discount on him. I think all of the Saints have a huge discount across the industry to the point where, yeah, Sam Fran is good, but like these guys are still pretty good players. You know, it's not like they're going to get 0 yards or not score a single touchdown. So I think Kamara's in there for me. Mentioned Chubb, and then if you want the same McCaffrey workload, I mean, just you can go to Fournette. Just do you like the matchup enough to do that or not?
Absolutely. Yeah. Kamara is someone, the other thing with him in tight games, I feel like in a lot of ways that helps him because they need the volume. He's going to get his passes, and that's where he's the most dangerous. The guy, I know you mentioned Chubb, and I get it. Do you worry with what we've seen? I know it's somewhat of a small sample size, but Kareem Hunt is certainly involved in this offense. It's more in the passing game, but at the same time, Chubb at a price tag like this, you really hate to see another guy vulturing any of his production.
Yeah, no, and it's to the point where like Chubb is almost non-existent now in the passing game, right? Like he almost gets 0 in the passing game, and it's almost strictly just Hunt, right? And when Hunt gets in a role, and let me preface this by saying I'm not saying that I think Chubb is worth any less now, but do we have to at least acknowledge that Hunt is there? Sure. Chubb has had 20 plus carries in like 6 weeks in a row. So the volume is clearly there before the Pittsburgh game. He had like 6 weeks in a row of just 20, 20, 20, 27, 21, 20, 20. Like, so the volume was there. Just the passing volume or the pass catching work, it kind of disappeared all of a sudden, right? So he even had a game in there. We had 0 catches, 0 nothing. And it's, that can be frustrating, especially on PPR sites, which is why I give him the bump down. But if you're just talking strictly volume, Chubb, I think is still fine. Just, yeah, you have to worry that, Hunt is not going to let him play third down. So
it's crazy. Him and Derrick Henry are becoming this because like Derrick Henry never has a ton. He's going to give you a reception or two. And both of those guys right now are up there on full PPR sites. Even though I play those guys here and there, I still have trouble. You just can't replicate what 8-10 targets does. But I want to work down just a little more and ask you about a guy that I really like. And it's just been, I'm picking on Jacksonville's defense till they stop it. I like Melvin Gordon quite a bit.
Wow.
The Jags have been absolutely decimated up front. We saw Henry run through them. Peyton Barber was scoring, so it's bad, which was just ridiculous in itself. But Melvin Gordon's a guy, he's had 20 carries in 3 out of 4 games. I think he could have a lot of success here in a game where it's 2 pretty bad teams, but I like him at a reasonable price tag.
No, I think you're definitely not wrong. And if you look at the workload he's been getting the last 4 weeks, it's not just strictly Eckler. It looks like Eckler's going to just pretty much a receiving role. And if you can have that, like Eckler last week had 9 carries, but it's been straight 20 carry games for Melvin Gordon. If you get another 20 carry game against this defense, I think you're totally right. And it's at that tier where you're not going all the way up. You don't have to sacrifice for this. I mean, more or less he's going to get around, I'd say 20 touches. If that's the case, man, you have to love it too. By the way, it's also pretty good that they're road favorites. They're not even road dogs here. Jacksonville has just been awful, man, on both sides of the ball. And if they go, if they're in a good game script, I mean, that only helps Melvin Gordon. So yeah, interesting. But I think I'm warming up to it. I like it.
This is a whole different show, but the Chargers, how they lose these games.
That's ridiculous.
Like what?
That's ridiculous.
Like I've never seen anybody not take a knee there, and then I've never seen a team allow you to kick a field goal with 9 seconds left.
They have either the worst luck or they're just really that bad under 1 minute. I don't know.
It's really something. But yeah, I mean, this is the 31st ranked rush defense DVOA. The 32nd is the Panthers. Does that mean that you even consider Devontae Freeman, who's just been bad all year?
Yeah, I mean, so I lied to you if I told you I didn't have Devontae Freeman right now, but like, I don't think I've had one cashing lineup this entire year with Devontae Freeman in it. Like, he's just been He doesn't do anything. He's had 120-point game this year. That's it. They don't even like. It's like he'll never get 20 carries because I don't even think he's built to get 20 carries. At least I don't think so. I don't know. He's barely passed 50 yards this season I think in just 2 games, if you don't count the last one because he had 51. So just 2 games this season. Like that's horrendous. He doesn't. And in the passing game, I mean, you're lucky if you get 20 yards out of this guy. I have him because of obviously the matchup, and the price tag is favorable, but man, I hate playing this guy. You have no idea, man. I hate him so bad.
It's so tough because it's such a great way to get exposure to what I think is one of the best games. We
Yeah.
talked about at the top, Matt Ryan and the receivers. There's a lot of questions there. You can mitigate that if you think it goes run heavy, but that flows right to Freeman. And the guy, 21 touches last week. He got you 10 fantasy points.
Yep.
It's horrible. I mean, I don't understand how he's been this ineffective. I'm with you. I don't know how you don't consider him at a very reasonable price tag against an awful run defense. And as you mentioned, if you want to go up and get the McCaffreys of the world or pay up a receiver, which we'll talk about in a bit, you need some salary savers. And I don't have a ton else to say as we work down.
Yeah, no, I'm right there with you. I have guys like James White. I don't know if I'm chasing points there or what could be. You're right. If I want McCaffrey, Freeman is the guy that kind of makes it work for me, and it doesn't feel right at all, man. It doesn't feel good at all. By the way, I have one for you.
Please.
I'm not sure how you're going to feel about this one. A cheapie. I'm sure you've heard the trolling all over Twitter with this guy's name, but is Patrick Laird a thing? I have to ask you, man. I have to.
So they mercifully have sent Kalen Balaj to the glue factory.
About time. I mean,
my God,
we had to wait till week 14.
I was trying to play that guy too. It just wasn't working. So I'll say this. When Miami gets in these game scripts where it's just out of control and Fitzy is dropping back immensely, this guy can catch passes. I know a little about him. I saw him at Cal quite a bit.
Of course you did.
Yeah, you know May. So I've seen this guy play more than you would think. He's certainly a dynamic pass catcher. He's not going to give you, as you saw, 10 carries for 5 yards. That's not going to get it done. 4,100.
I don't know who's worse, him or Balaj. I have no idea.
They obviously have, at least they stick to the script of what they want out of their running backs. And you look at the other guys like Myles Gaskin and them, not exactly pass catchers. So he's going to get that work. I just think I like him much better in aggressive Miami Jets game stacks where I'm running it back. Fair. Or I use like him, Fitzy, and Parker or something like that.
Right.
I think there's merit to that, but I don't know how often I have him as a one-off.
Yeah, I know. I agree. I think if the game, has a lot of scoring, then maybe he falls into the end zone and is worth his price tag or whatever. But you're right. As a one-off where like, I don't know, you assume the game doesn't score too much and he's just the chosen one in that game. I think that's the wrong idea.
So I got a couple more for you down here. And the first one I think is pretty easy. It's just an if statement. If Dalvin Cook sits, I assume Madison is firmly in play for you.
Yeah, he's going to be massive chalk, I assume too, right? I think he's going to be the guy in that tier. Oh yeah, not even close. Mm-hmm.
And then are you going to chase Darius Geis at all? One of the only, I think, Green Bay is a huge favorite. It's in Lambeau. This guy looked good, but the problem is I don't know how prolific a pass catcher he is. He ran through Carolina, as I mentioned, they're the worst run defense in the league right now, 10 for 130 and a pair of scores. He's sub 5K on DraftKings, reasonable across the industry. Do you have any interest or do you feel that's 2-point chasey?
Yeah, I think so too. Like it took a game where they finally won for them to have a good game. And I mean them because they ran all over Carolina. AP had a decent running game too, right? Like they just did everything against this team. And guys did that on 10 carries. So I think the game script obviously helped them. They were ahead. They just kept running all over them. I don't think they're ahead at all in this game. I don't think you could replay this a bajillion times, and I don't think they're up in one scenario, not even one of those games. Green Bay is such a huge favorite at home, like that it's just like I can't see unless you think he gets some sort of PPR work, then maybe. But I think Chris Thompson will still be the guy there, and if anything, I'd look to his maybe receiving skills if I wanted someone from the backfield. But no, I'm staying away. I don't think I can chase that.
Yeah, I agree. So the only way I like him in theory, but I think the only way you get to him is if you think that he takes a part of when they are down double digits, because that's going to happen in the spot. in my opinion. Any other backs that you want to mention before we move to receiver?
Nope. I think we're okay. I think we're all right. The Kansas City situation has been murky, so I still think I'm staying away from that.
Yeah, I'm with you. I tried to just
Yep.
Shady. He's getting worse, by the way, with the way he holds the ball. It was never good. Now he's just running. He's got the ball just
I know.
really extended. I don't know what he's doing. It's insane, but that's neither here nor there. We've got a lot of the big names back on the slate. When we talk about Michael Thomas from T-Day, we've got Tyreek, Devontae Adams, Diggs, Julio is questionable. DeAndre Hopkins going to be a popular pairing with Deshaun. What do you make? I mean, are you comfortable? I know you mentioned Kamara. I assume you're pretty comfortable just rolling Michael Thomas against what is a very tough defense.
Yeah. I think you can go there too. Another one that has his price come all the way down because of San Fran. So anytime you can get a discount on any of these guys, I think you have to at least consider them, and that's kind of how I'm taking it. I'm not sure a lot of people are going to be on the Saints team at all, making them. Anytime you have Michael Thomas or Alvin Kamara or Drew Brees at really low ownership, man, that's a pretty good recipe right there, man. And they're in the dome, which is what I like the most. I think that being at home against this team could help. I think traveling to San Fran probably hurts them there, and probably, with the way they're playing, I mean, should be extremely tough to win on the road, even put up points, even have a big game. So for me, I like that they're at home. I like that they're cheap. And I like that they're unknown virtually. So I like Michael Thomas a ton. I like the guys you mentioned. Devontae Adams, I think, in my radar too. Hopefully the touchdowns go his way in Washington. Everyone can score on that team, right? Could be the running game, could be A-Rod, could be any one of the receivers. It could be anyone. Hopefully it's Devontae Adams. I have him probably as my third highest. And then another guy that I have a ton of, with Dalton back, he got 10 targets last week. Hey, what do you know? He's back on the radar, right? Tyler Boyd, man. I wish he would have gone over the 100 mark, but still 5 for 59 and a touchdown. The fact that he saw that many targets, I think, encouraging. So I think Boyd coming into this week, again, sub 6K on some sites, I think really, really nice.
Yeah, I mean, since they won a game, obviously,
Right.
it's of course the Jets are just, but this is a spot they should be trailing in Cleveland. And, we'll see with Finley long term with them, but obviously Andy Dalton right now gives these receivers the best chance at ceilings. Yep. There's no doubt about it.
For sure.
I'm with you in line with Adams. And I'll just say real quick on San Francisco, it's been a brutal stretch. They played the Seahawks. That game went to overtime. Then they had an easy game. Then they went to Baltimore. Now they're in the Superdome. Like, that's a very tough ask. And I wouldn't be stunned to see. I mean, they are underdog, and I like the Saints in the game. I think this ultimately determines who could possibly have home field throughout. And we know the Saints really, really want that. I've got to ask you, because no one in the world that I've heard can distinguish between Godwin and Evans. Is this a Godwin game? Is this an Evans game? What make you against the Colts here?
It's one of those where, like, flip a coin, let's see what comes out, right? I have you gotten him right one week? I haven't. It feels like I haven't, at least.
I got Evans right once, but that's because I use him frequently.
Oh, me too. Yeah, and even then, I feels like I can never get him right. So, all right. So I've tried Evans for like the last 3 weeks. So that means now that I'm off Evans, I mean,
here it is.
We'll have a great game. That's how that works.
It's, I've seen people mention, well, and this is true, that the Colts, they really suppress over the top. They push underneath with the zone. Maybe that sets up more for Godwin. But honestly, I really have a tough time distinguishing amongst these two. As you mentioned off the top, I don't think it's a great spot for the Bucs in general, to be honest. So I may go to them in some capacity, but I absolutely like DeAndre Hopkins more. And DJ Moore, even though McCaffrey is fantastic, DJ Moore gets there every week. It's crazy.
Yeah, for sure. To finish on Tampa, I have them almost projected the same. They're almost priced the same. Heck, you could even call them the same. They're literally the same player to me, and it's I don't know who to choose. They're literally the same player, same projection, same salary, same everything. It's like, all right, A or B. Give me the lower owned guy. And as of right now, they also look like they're going to be owned.
I was about to say, you don't even get a discount where you can lean on game theory.
Yeah, nothing. You get nothing. Just like literally just flip a coin. They're going to be owned the same 13%. It's frustrating. I obviously don't have a strong preference. I'm going Godwin. That means Evans is going ham. As far as the refs are concerned, like, I think there's I always love the mid tier in receivers. Like, I hate paying all the way up because there are guys like, for example, I'm not this week, but like a Kenny Golladay or something can always go ham and he'll hover around the 6K range. And it's like, why do I need to go to Tyreek Hill at 8K when I could go to just a Galladay in the mid tier and just fit in like a Galladay, Landry, or Odell or whatever, and just call it a day. By the way, Odell Beckham 6K. Like I think we have to look there, right? Fine. By the way, they've been bad for so long, and they have a pretty good 2-game. I think it's 2 game or 3 games in a row here at the end that all favor them big time. So if there's ever a time to start playing these guys, Odell at 6K, I don't think we would have ever said that before. Like the New York Giants Odell, I don't think we've ever would have guessed. Oh yeah, Odell Beckham's going to be 6K because he's just not good anymore. That's so weird to see.
It really is. And yes, I mean, the Cowboys have set just an you can't catch them for disappointment, but the Browns are trying to compete. Yep. But at home, I know these guys have Q tags, but I expect them to play. Odell, to me, still has that ceiling where he could be the slate breaker. And as a one-off, I don't even know if you need to go to Baker in a ton of capacity. He just makes – I don't like to bank on what we've seen as what's going to happen, but we have seen so many slates where just loading up on that like middle tier of wide receivers with those type of guys has resulted in like 30, 30, 30 in terms of DFS output. And that's really another way to structure it here with guys like him. I don't really like Keenan Allen or Smokey, but that price range, you mentioned Boyd, he would be another guy I plan to target in the same game, actually.
Yeah, for sure. I actually love game stacks from this game. And it's primarily receivers. I think the upside in this one, obviously huge. If you wanted to go, Baker, doesn't matter who you want at quarterback. Just play 2 or 3 of these guys, and you could be in for a really nice game here. I think sneakily, it can kind of shoot out. Anytime I see like these 41, 42 totals, I respect them, and I kind of project the game using something like that, but it doesn't mean it can't go ham or can't score, 45 or 50. It could very well go 28 to 24 or something, and that'll be clearly way more than enough for any one of these receivers. So, I like Boyd. I like Odell. Landry's okay. I think he's probably my third if I had to rank them. But, I love the game specifically.
Yeah, and just to speak to that even more, 2 things. One, absolutely, these games can always shoot out. And a lot of times these guys are priced for a lower total. So to get there, it's not nearly as much as guys in like the Atlanta game where they're priced for a 50 total. So keep that in mind. Working down a bit, do I dare like Robbie Anderson? Are you looking to these Jets guys against what is, I think, a terrible secondary for the Dolphins? I know Devontae Parker was an absolute monster last week. He got the price bump. Do you make anything as we work down to the mid and lower ranges for receiver?
I'm trying to find someone in this range that I feel comfortable with. And I really don't have anything, man. I really don't have anything. Like some of the Pittsburgh guys maybe, but like they're kind of bad. They're not bad. It's just the situation at quarterback is just so frustrating, right? Like how do you even trust anyone in that offense? It's just like I have no idea where the ball's going to go. If it's not that mid to high tier, like it's really hard for me to find like a value receiver I feel comfortable with. Really, I barely have any in any of my lineups.
So, all right, I know. I just want to throw a couple of names out, and then we'll move on to tight end and defense. I know you mentioned you like maybe some of the Cincinnati and Cleveland. Sure. Are you giving any consideration for John Ross being back?
Oh,
he's such a burner. You know how he plays.
Dude, he could get you 2 catches for 130 yards. He's that type of player, right?
He's going to be 0% owned.
0% owned.
As part of
I don't have him now, but like you making me think, dude. Last time he was on a field, it was exactly that, like 3 catches for 130 and 2 touchdowns. It's just like how?
Yeah, I mean, he's a guy that his floor is non-existent, but with Dalton back, him, Boyd, and Dalton running it back with an Odell type is a stack that I'm really going to explore. Just because we saw week 1, 7 for 158 and 2. Week 2, 4 for 112 and 1. And that was against the Niners in Seattle. 2 pretty quality teams. Then, he had some slow games and then he got hurt. It's his first game back. I don't know what we see, but I do know that he is the type of guy who could break a slate and he's dirt cheap.
Yep. Fair enough. I mean, you love taking risks like this.
You know me. I love to roll the dice.
Nuts, man. Go big or go home, dude. I love it, man. It's just where does Ben come up with this?
I Yeah, and for every one that you get right, there's a lot more that you don't, but you just have to balance out
Yep,
that you know that better than anyone, that the
for
reward
sure.
for getting it right once can carry you for a while.
Yep.
Last couple guys, and then I guess we can move on.
Yeah, yeah.
So David Blow, or whatever this dude's name is, he was really, I know Galladay had a big game, but he was pushing the ball underneath. Someone like Amendola, you saw
Yeah.
8 targets. It didn't materialize. But against the Minnesota team, Xavier Rhodes is complete dust. I could see him getting some pretty sizable floor in a full point PPR, and he's flat 4K. Him and Albert Wilson are sitting there. As YOLO deep end salary savers, I don't hate it.
Yeah, no, I'm right there with you. I actually have not a decent amount, like say 10-15% of Amendola right now. And it's my same thought process. It's if first of all, I do think Xavier Rhodes is dust. He's just not good anymore. He's too big of a corner to be good for that long, right? I just I don't know. I think he's dust too. And if that's gonna be the case, then yeah, I'm all for Amendola. It kind of so the volume was there, just the passes weren't all that great. So like most of those were uncatchable to begin with, right? And as long as if they trail, which we all predict they're going to, yeah, dude, I'll take it in garbage time. I'll take it in the end of the third quarter. I don't care when I get it, but as long as we get some Amendola catches, totally fine. Minnesota's huge favorites.
Huge.
So yeah, I love the catch-up game for Detroit. Marvin Jones, pretty interesting too for me.
Yeah, I think you can look there. And as chat mentioned, if Thielen plays, we'll see what his status at.
Yeah,
He is pretty affordable.
fair. Mhm.
But yeah, garbage, it all counts the same.
It all counts, man.
I can confirm. Before we get to tight end, I do want to just quickly mention, Chad, as we always, we love you guys hanging out with us. Thanks for letting me fill in. If you can hit the like button, much appreciated. We hope you sign up. We have so many tools behind the paywall, not just from our site, but obviously all the stuff that Manny does. A lot of it's incorporated on the FC side, and just his tools, which, believe me, studying it, all the work, yeah, it's fun to make your teams, but the actual work is Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday.
Yep.
Studying it, reviewing it, try to plug the leaks, even when it's not going well. That will pay off in the long run. I can absolutely promise you.
Yep.
Now we get. I'm so happy I'm doing this show with you because Vance McDonald is playing the Cardinals, and
Oh,
there's nobody that hates ridiculously bad chalk tight ends as much as you do. And the first time this
I
happened with
can't.
Vance
I can't.
McDonald a couple weeks ago, he got 1 point. Now he's against the Cardinals here. What are you doing at tight end, and will you go to a guy who's just been straight awful?
Do you believe in the whole tight ends against Cardinals thing? Like I know they're bad. Listen, they're awful. We just saw Higbee do it
Yeah,
against them too. Like everyone has done it again. No matter who I could do it against him if I was playing tight end. I'm sure, right? So that's the only thing that makes me question it because Vance McDonald in a Pittsburgh offense.
this guy. I
I
mean,
mean, brother, and last time you saw it, dude. He got 1 point last time he was chalked, man. Like he could very well get 1 point again, even though it's the Cardinals. Like
no doubt.
I currently have 0 Vance McDonald, but you said it from the very beginning. I hate chalk tight ends, man. I can't stand this position, dude. I have 0 right now.
I'm not surprised. So I'm with you, and it's hard to ignore. Like of course I looked at Higbee. He had 15 points before I even blinked
Yep.
last week.
Mm-hmm.
It was
It's funny
ridiculous.
because I go to get something downstairs. I come back and Higbee already has like 5 catches, and I'm like, it's the first quarter.
Yep.
How?
It was unbelievable. Now, a couple
Cardinals.
of things. Vance McDonald is not $2,500 like we saw Higbee was. This guy is 4,300 on DraftKings. He's equally priced on Yahoo and FanDuel. It's a different question there. So I'm going to monitor ownership. I have an against the grain play as a straight pivot, and it's Jared Cook in that Saints offense with Brees. Nobody in the world is going to go there. This is a guy who's been getting targets, double-digit fantasy points in multiple games, can get in the end zone. And again, with a dynamic offense like the Saints, it is everything that the Pittsburgh offense is not. And I actually think going against the grain at what could be depressed ownership is a pretty interesting move.
Yeah, no, I absolutely love it. And I love, how much I love the Saints this week. I'm right there with you. Jared Cook, phenomenal play. There's a few guys kind of here. If you wanted to go really, really cheap, like what do you think of Ian Thomas? Maybe like I know Olsen, not going to suit up or whatever. But if it's you project Ian Thomas for I don't know 8-9 fantasy points, maybe. Again, it's in against Atlanta. If they're down, even better. That would be your 2-5 play of the week. But even then, I don't think I'm going there. I think Cook is my favorite. I don't mind Hunter Henry either. I think if you pay up just a tad bit more at 5K, I think Hunter Henry is pretty decent.
Yeah, that's where I plan to live in, and I'll throw one more in the same range. Jack Doyle is a guy
Yep.
with Ebron gone, 11 targets against Tennessee. I think that's very sustainable against the Tampa secondary that I don't worry about at all.
Yep. Love it.
If you have the money, I mean, of course, Travis Kelce, but that's a whole different price tag. I think for me, I'm going to live in that range. And if Vance McDonald has like 9 for 150 and one, probably going to be, depending on how owned he is, it could be a long day for me.
I don't know why you do this to yourself.
I mean,
so do this like a John Ross line or
there it is.
Do like I can't even think of any other like weird okay, so like Sonny Michel down there and just like stack up on a bunch of stack up on CMC and whoever else you like up there and just call it a day, man. Go big or go home.
Print fest. Yeah, I mean Vance McDonald. I don't know if I can do it. We'll
I can't do it either. I can't do it.
But I do like it. And then as Manny talked about earlier, guys like Mark Andrews, I'm probably not going to get to him unless I'm going to Lamar.
Right.
It'll be dependent. I always try to leverage here and there, especially with weird, like Kyle Allen. I think if you use Ian Thomas in a stack like that, it's a way to get exposure to a great game in a different way. And I always like to do that.
Yep. I'm right there with you.
Beautiful. Oh God, I got to ask you about one last guy. Then we'll get to defense and we'll bounce on out of here. You're not going to play Noah Fant, right?
No.
Okay.
I'm just not a fan. Like even his good games, I feel like are so fluky. Like I feel like it's just like you ran literally in a straight line, didn't juke anyone, but the other team just couldn't tackle you for whatever dumb reason, And it's like, well, there you go. You have like 70 yards and a touchdown now, and it's like, I mean, he's athletic, good, but like even the offense is just not good. The terrible. Like I hate if it's not your clear number one, like a Sutton or something. I hate going to that offense.
Yeah, and Drew Lock, we'll see. He looked competent, but I still,
sure.
Yeah, I know when they span to red zone, and I'm like, oh, beautiful, because I always play the defense against the Broncos, and then it's Noah Fant just running amok, like
I was like, come on, man.
Clear. Very, very shady. Moving on to defense, and I feel like we predominantly, I know you're not a fan of defense. I am certainly not a fan of defense. I think it's extremely fluky. I do like that they have, let me ask you, because we have a couple minutes. Do you like that they've made the pricing more dynamic where we have defenses at like $1,500 sometimes?
Well, here's the thing with that, because it obviously using FC, it's going to just force some of these teams in, because they're so cheap, and usually defenses don't even have they don't have comparable projections to actual players. So you're just going to save as much as you can on defense, just even if it's the Redskins against Green Bay, who I think are the cheapest defense this week. You're going to save there and then just load up on actual players because they'll get you more points, right? So the combination of, I don't know, 3, 4, 5 projection from like a Redskins at that price and an extra, I don't know, I'm not going to say McCaffrey, but an extra Kamara or Dalvin Cook or something is worth way more than you having, someone less than that, like a 7 or 6K running back, because you wanted to fit in, whoever was expensive, a 4K, or a 4K Vikings against Detroit. Like it's just, it's so random projecting touchdowns that it's just like, it's frustrating. Hey, someone lost a milli last week on a defensive play at the very end of a game. Like that's, I don't know why it's still in the game, man.
No. And I said that right before the show, and maybe I didn't even know that you could get 4 points.
Me neither. Imagine.
For returning the extra point for a touchdown.
Yeah. It apparently counts as like a 2-point conversion, but like on the defensive side, like who knew that? I didn't know.
There are crazy rules. I also discovered, because I was in a wormhole, that this would never, ever happen. But if for some insane reason on a 2-point attempt, if the team actually got a safety, so if somehow they lost 100 yards, the other team gets 1 point. 1 point, a 1-point play. So technically a team could get 1 point in the NFL. I never knew that.
How do you know this?
Because it's a long story, because I was researching the PAT thing, and they were showing all the scenarios of what could happen. If somehow you I don't know how you could get a safety on that. The other team gets 1 point. So if you ever see a score that's like 7-1 in NFL, just remember that this is why you watch the show, for that type of knowledge.
I've never heard of that before. I didn't, obviously Okay, I don't want to say obviously because I've been wrong plenty of times, but I'd like to say that can never happen. It's impossible.
That's not
But
happening.
yeah,
So when somehow Vance McDonald is involved in a 1-point play, and that's it for me. But is there any defenses that you are looking to? I mean, do you really kind of just say whatever fills in I'm good with, or do you target any? How do you really approach that?
yeah, I just kind of my thing is just trying to be different from the field, right?
Yep.
Because defense is so random to the point where if I know 10 to 15% of the field or even 20% of the field is going to be on one really cheap defense or one defense that just provides great value and just kind of fits in and is kind of like the optimizer defense, and I automatically just shy away from that. It's so hard for a defense to score points, let alone predict it, that it's just like I'm just going to go with wherever the field is not, and you can't even feel because unless they're the Patriots scoring 40. I mean, you know, and they're just it's so rare for them to lose you a tournament that it's just I'm not going to do it.
Yep. And I will say I can speak probably for you on this. There's nothing more frustrating than knowing that you made the long-term plus EV move of fading a 30% owned chalk defense and they put up 25 points.
Yeah,
Long term, you're going to get the better of that.
yeah,
But man, is it frustrating when you see the Patriots defense because you can't make up. If a defense gets 25, it's over. It's a
it's
tournament within
over.
a
Yeah.
tournament.
It's the Patriots have gotten, I think it was 40 or 39 one
They were the
week, and they
highest
were the
scoring.
highest. They were the highest scoring player or thing in DFS. I was just like, how? That lost me everything that week.
It's insane. But we just have to live with that. But that's how I approach it too. I think that's really
Yep,
a smart way to
same
do
here.
it. And we have a minute or two left, Manny. I know you're doing a lot of things. You want to tell the people. You got a show right after this, right?
Yeah, so you can find all my work on fantasycruncher.com. The tools you use obviously are part of what I do daily. And you know, along with all my partners there, we strive really hard to provide the best possible products we can. You can find all my stuff again on Twitter at mlaura, and then of course my live streams, which are usually right after this, twitch.tv/mlaura as well.
Beautiful. Yeah. And I absolutely recommend, like I said, Manny, the stuff that you do, breaking down the slates in between the slates. For so many people, I know we have a ton of new people at Awesemo. Check that stuff out. It's really important. And you don't realize you have tendencies. I know for
Yeah,
me,
man.
it's like, all right, why am I doing this? Does this make sense? And you can
Right.
start to slowly tool up your game. And not only your own, you can say, man, I've seen this guy at the top of the leaderboard a lot. What is he doing?
Yeah, it's
Um,
it's 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 one of those things where you just assume you're making all the right moves, but especially even when you're using FC, I mean, we're making so many lineups sometimes that it's just like it's impossible for all of them to be perfect, right? And if you don't go back and kind of see where those mistakes are at, then how can you improve, right? And it's the same thing in every industry. If you don't go back and just improve your process little by little, it's always a game where we got to keep learning, man. And the field is going to get sharper. We have to stay just as sharp, and you know, hopefully we provide good enough tools to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just look at DFS from a couple years ago. Stuff that's now commonplace was cutting edge back then. And in a
Yep.
year from now, we're going to be having that same conversation. So those are the tools. So we're going to get out of here. I'm going to force us to have more shows together. I'm
That'd
going to
be
convince them.
fantastic, dude. Let's kick
Uh,
off Chris. You down? Yeah, let's
yeah,
kick
well,
off
yeah,
Chris.
I'm going to crash your Monday show with Lofty one time. We'll do some lads, get fit,
Awesome.
have some fun. But everyone, I appreciate everyone stopping by. Thanks to Yahoo for sponsoring the show as always. Make sure you go sign up over there, hit the like button, go check out Manny's stuff. And if for some reason you're like, you know what, I watched you on the NBA show, I watched you on the NFL show, I just want to keep watching old Jazz Raz here. I am up next with my man Nolan Kelly. We're breaking down NFL betting, college football. It's championship week, talking about those games. I have some real disturbing picks, as I always do, as Manny knows from
Unbelievable.
Sirius. Maybe we'll throw in some world capitals for old time's sake. But that's neither here nor there. Thanks everyone for watching. Sign on up, and we will see you next week. Good luck, everyone.